It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He's Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. It's official. Eric and Gary have clinched the nomination to possibly win Best All-Night Radio Show. Gary, how are you?
Yeah, right. Well, I've got to start with this.
Yeah? What?
Because when I saw it right before I went to sleep.
Yeah.
I sleep before the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, RFK gives the possibilities. RFK Jr. I want to make sure. Not RFK.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
RFK Jr.
Yeah.
That would be something if RFK was picking a vice presidential or naming the possible vice presidential candidates.
Well, with AI, you never know.
And when he came out with Aaron Rodgers and Jesse Ventura, I'm like...
When I thought Aaron Rodgers, I thought, okay. And then Jesse Ventura, I thought, okay, now you've got my attention. But here's the thing. If instead he'll pick Ric Flair, I'll vote for him. I'll vote for him if he picks Ric Flair, woo! And Ric Flair accepts, I will vote for him.
Look, one of the most overhyped gubernatorial elections ever was when Jesse Ventura ran for the governor of Minnesota.
I don't know. You tell me, was it overhyped?
Oh, God, yes.
You know who overhyped it? The Illuminati.
It wasn't me. But I remember callers, no, he's the kind of new person that we need here. He's the guy. That's the thing when you've been through as many elections as I've been, and you get the newbies in going, oh, this is the guy that's going to save the world. This guy's going to save this is what we've needed all along.
He's the guy.
And it's like, stop it, you're an idiot. Or not, you maybe not be an idiot. You'd be an idiot if you've been through as many elections as I have been and still practice political idolatry.
Right.
After... Every idol out there has eventually fallen.
Right. Well, but that's what they're doing with RFK Jr., too.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, look, the guy's liberal. He may be more centered on some things, but in the end, he's a liberal. But it's the same appeal, though. It's the, none of the above. And then if he goes Jesse Ventura, he kind of ups that game, right? I don't know to what extent, though.
Well, we go through all these times that Republicans and Democrats aren't enough. We need another party, and this is always recycled every decade. Every decade it comes up again. That's what will solve the problem.
Yeah.
We need somebody like Robert Kennedy Jr. with Jesse Ventura as his vice president.
Yeah.
Are you out of your freaking minds?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and it was the same thing with, I'll never forget, well, we need somebody. I could because I was working in Portland at our great affiliate KXL.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it was just, people would, call me up and they'd go, well, no, that's the kind of person that's Jesse Ventura. That's the kind of person. He'll bring something different. What?
Yeah. Yeah. What is that?
Well, what do you mean? What will he bring different?
What?
Well, he's a new kind of independent. I know that's blah, 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 yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
Please tell me what, and by the way, that was probably even more fashionable back then to say yada, yada, yada.
I'd say so, yeah. It was more relevant.
It was more relevant.
I think it's still relevant, but
because Seinfeld was actually, still in its run, its initial run. And it was like, what? And I said, he's going to end up being a liberal, which he was, end up being a liberal, And it's like, he didn't bring anything new. We always talk about, we need the new people with new ideas. Hey! Bozo, tell me the last new idea.
Yeah.
What is the last new idea?
Where are those new ideas? Where are they?
Well, we've been around for a significant period of time, and in politics in the United States, every idea has at least been floated 100 times.
Well, now, the left has introduced a million new ideas. They're all delusional. a man can be a woman just by saying so.
Okay, there are some. All right, I'm sorry. I was talking about mainstream politics.
Critical thinkers.
I am wrong.
Yeah.
You're right. There are new ideas. A man can marry a woman because a man says so.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, did you see? I just saw that Gaga Cuckoo just came out and she was embracing on International Women's Day Dylan Mulvaney, and they're doing something. I don't know. They're in some project together, and she got flack for it on International Women's Day for promoting a man. And she goes, "It's all hatred," and it's true. It is. It's all hatred. Lady Gaga hates women.
Yeah.
Why does Lady Gaga hate women? Why is Gaga cuckoo?
International Women's Day is, of course, handing it over to the men is
Yes.
the next logical step.
And see, that's the kind of new idea we need, like from Lady Gaga, because she is, when it comes to entertainers, she is where the intellectual stimulation comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For God's sake. It's about hatred. Yeah, you hate women. Why do you hate women?
Right.
Why is there this self-misogyny?
Why are you throwing away what women have worked for decades?
I know.
For ages.
I had to throw that one in. But getting back to the whole RFK, Jesse Ventura, or the Aaron Rodgers. So I go to National Review, which is normally a pretty serious, conservative, media outlet.
Yeah.
I think that with the number of, and their writers disagree, but if you want what I view as some of the best conservative thought, that's the place I think to go. So when I saw this headline, I went, no. All of a sudden, when I just saw the headline now, for a moment, I said, oh, it's a smoke-filled room, because I always, view these. I know they're doing it all from home, but I'm old school, so I'm thinking all these writers and editorial writers are all together writing their articles, and it's a smoke-filled room, but the smoke is pot, because to say this, you must be on drugs.
Yeah.
To have this headline. And then I read the first sentence, and here it is, Luther Ray Abel's column. Aaron Rodgers should be RFK Jr.'s running mate.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, that is, in today's society, it did go through my mind for a second, a little bit of clickbait, except the fact that you don't need clickbait because I pay for National Review.
Yeah, you don't even have to click.
Right.
They get what they want to get out of you anyway.
Right, exactly. So I went, well, then he can't be serious. What's the So again, I was like, okay, what could it possibly be? Aaron Rodgers should be RFK Jr.'s running mate, because then Jets fans would have no reason for false hope at the start of the season.
I love that. I love it. Put it to bed right away. I love that. I love it.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Mr. Kennedy confirmed on Tuesday that the two men, Aaron Rodgers and Jesse Ventura, were at the top of his list. It is not clear if either has been formally offered the post.
Well, see, that's another thing, too. I don't get this whole, throwing that out there without having the answer to the question, have you spoken to them yet? Have you offered the... Because for me, it would be, all right, we'll see, and you will learn as we get closer, or at the convention, you will learn who it's going to be. Or whenever, RFK was is going to have his own convention. What you will announce it when it's formal. I don't know why. If the media leaked it, that's one thing. But I don't get the whole, this is, and it's, wait a minute. It's like Joe Manchin talking about Mitt Romney. And we learned, and I knew in my mind, I could see Mitt Romney seeing that interview with Joe Manchin, where he brought up Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney going, whoa, no. And that's kind of how it went down a few hours later. It's like, why would you not just announce it when it's formal? Here's who I've asked. They've accepted. This is my running mate.
You know, this is the best line that he wrote here. What all three men have in common is a familiarity with conspiracism that would make for a fun night of talking bunk at the pub, but a disastrous brain trust for leading the country. We've already seen plenty enough delusion in the White House as of late, but these three don't even pretend that reality is desirable or shared. And this is the interesting thing here where he goes, more seriously, Rodgers can't sell, which is a point being made here. Tom Brady moves product. Rodgers and other successful quarterbacks just don't. So it's like when you look at it, who's been successful marketing? Brady has.
Right, yeah.
Because, Rodgers. And I don't know what he's using to back that up. I found it interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the statistics to back it up. He didn't put it in there. And now he did relate to a point made by a book that was written, Michael Lewis's Going Infinite, talking about the marketability. So maybe it's in that book where they look at it. But to be fair, I just found it, again, just humorous. But really it was just like it. And again, when the whole RFK thing came up, and you see that the numbers, he's no longer 17, 18%. He's down now, 10 or under.
Well, that's the first thing I thought. I thought, okay, this is an attempt to, that's what you want to do. You want to float some names, see if you can get some attention, get some talk going in the news, maybe further consideration. But it rarely gets to a point where it was at its point, upper teens at its best, and then drops going into the spring and summer, and then goes back up again. That's I don't see that happening for RFK Jr. And it doesn't matter who he picks as a VP. It's just not going to help his campaign. It's coming down. Reality is setting in. This is how it works. You and I have been doing this for a while. It's official now. They've got it. They've got the delegate count. It's done on both sides. It's Trump. It's Biden. Sorry, Democrats. It's Biden. And that's what it comes down to. And more people are going to go, okay, all right. Because in the soft season, you can go, oh, no, RFK. This is exactly what happened. This is how the polls drop. There's a number of people going, oh, no, RFK Jr. And then when it starts to get serious, you get through the primary season. Maybe the primary happens in your state, whatever. And it's like, okay, really, it has to get down to, do I really want to have Biden for 4 more years? Or for the left, do I really want Trump to win again? And so it gets down to that fight. And this is one of those that is unlike most presidential elections in that you essentially have 2 incumbents. Both have been president. And so, and that's going to be the consideration November 5th. Not that RFK Jr. won't pull, I don't know, a couple of points. It's just going to, this is the way it settles in. It's not going to be Ross Perot, all over again,
No, but I still say if Perot hadn't pulled out, he could have won that election.
Yeah. No, the momentum for him was pretty crazy to watch.
Yeah, when it's the point out and coming back in, and people went, okay, no, he's not serious.
Right.
He's not serious at that point. You don't pull out and come back in again. But I remember in that summer, because I was still relatively new to talk radio, I went, wow, this guy could actually, this guy could win and not be a Republican or a Democrat. I don't know. I've always thought that once you got to the general election in September or October, though, the one thing against Ross Perot winning was the fact that he talked about a 50-cent tax on every gallon of gasoline to pay off the national debt. I think that would have been the biggest thing that he faced, but he said it, and as my memory going all the way back a long, long time ago, as I go back there, I know that people initially said, well, he really won't do that. It was sort of that thing, the supporters. Well, he's just saying that, but he won't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, when you get closer, if he had, it may have had a bigger effect if he hadn't pulled out. But that destroyed him when he pulled out.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But, all right, we got a great show ahead. We'll look at the hearing, the House Judiciary Committee, Robert Hur there yesterday. A bunch to take out of that. Inflation numbers, you would have thought the inflation rate went down by half if you saw Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But the fact is, it doesn't matter what you say. People have already felt it, as you've always stated.
Yep.
By the time the inflation number comes out, people have already felt it. You can't sit there and tell them that what they're feeling every day in their wallet or pocketbook, that it isn't there, that everything is great.
Right.
And it's not. And so you're not going to see, we're not probably going to see any type of rate cut in May, or excuse me, in the spring here.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I have serious doubts as to whether they'll get to it by the end of the year. They maybe in late fall. I don't know.
So a great show ahead, 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. It's not always easy to spring back from the harsh days of winter to warmer months ahead. From de-icing chemicals to hidden debris underneath snow and ice, winter conditions can do serious damage to your truck. Here's a must-do maintenance check to help you minimize downtime and stay rolling. Have your batteries tested and inspect your electrical system for any exposed connections, wires, or butt connectors. Get any exposed components repaired immediately, as the acidic nature of highway de-icers will erode any exposed connections or wires in no time at all.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll get to some of the audio here following the bottom of the hour, but the House Judiciary Committee having former special counsel Robert Hur testify yesterday. Wow. Just very quickly here, because we're limited on time. What I saw yesterday is, number one, the Republicans were able to show the intent, the monetary intent, that Biden was writing a book. And so 8 million reasons, as Jim Jordan said, 8 million reasons here. And you had Robert Hur, because it was frustrating at times to watch him. And it's frustrating when you look at the decision overall. And I'm talking strictly from a legal point of view, because he pointed out Biden knew exactly what was going on when he was doing it.
Yeah, right.
Biden knew that he was using classified information and sharing it with the ghostwriter.
Right.
He knew it.
Yep.
And it's like, and that's what everybody sort of picked up on, all the legal experts. And then it's like, but didn't have enough to charge him. What do you mean you didn't have enough to charge him? Based on what? He never answered that question.
Right.
He never specifically, that I saw. Maybe there was somebody who asked it. I haven't seen it written anywhere. And again, I tried to watch as much of it as I was going through the chores of the day, but it's very tough when you work overnights and you're sleeping and you got things to do during the day. But that's the one thing I was searching for all day. All right, did he say specifically? Because he would say, well, I didn't feel that there was, enough to charge. What was it that made you not want to charge? And the only thing that it all comes back to is the president's cognitive ability, that he didn't remember anything.
Right.
So he did it, but he didn't remember anything when, he did his deposition, and therefore he doesn't have the cognitive ability to stand trial. That's the only reason, because he never gave a legal reason, well, you can't charge because of this, and the law says this.
Right.
More listeners not now than now, depending on when now is. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome, and thank you for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app. You can listen to our show when and where you want, because our podcast is just a repeat of the show.
It is.
So,
and thank you.
Yeah, we're not going to do a separate 5-hour podcast.
No,
we're not doing 10 hours.
We refuse to do that. Also, nobody requested that we do that.
What I got out of yesterday, because it was really interesting, because did you see where Adam Schiff didn't take questions but just pounded him, saying you knew what was going to happen if you knew that this would be political when you came out and said that Biden didn't have the cognitive abilities, to be charged on this, and you did that. You didn't need to do it, but you did it. You know why he did it, I believe. He did it because there was no other justification not to recommend charging the president.
Well, I always saw it as it was basically the James Comey thing. It was his out. Now, James Comey didn't really have an out because he shouldn't have been the one to announce that on the Hillary thing. With a special prosecutor, though, that's an easy out. Well, because of his cognitive issues we don't see going forward here, that's an easy out. And very sellable when most people believe that there's something going on with the president's cognitive state. That was, I think, a walk. That was one of those things of, okay, that's a cop-out. You don't want to, because this is the put Colonel Jessup on the stand moment.
Well, and he really didn't get a chance to respond, because that's how I would have responded. Mm-hmm. but he, in a way, he couldn't. Right. Well, I needed some excuse because Schiff was pounding him, and it was Jonathan Turley said, really interesting that Schiff is the one that's trying to take the high road here.
Yeah, right.
Guy who lied to the American public for 3 years about Russia collusion and what the actual intelligence said in our intelligence agencies. He's lied to the American public about that, which is why Republicans kicked him off the House Intelligence Committee.
Right.
So now he's going to run and probably be on the Senate Intelligence Committee when he wins in California.
Right.
Because Democrats in California don't care if you lie to the American public about what actual intelligence shows about an election.
Right.
And it was the opposite of what Schiff was saying. But when you look at it, because I thought that was a key moment when Schiff was pounding on him, and it was like, basically you're a partisan. That's why you did this. You did this to destroy. You had nothing on the president. You didn't need to do this. And my point was, no, he had to do. And we said this when it came out. We believe he had to do this because it was the only thing he could do to justify not recommending charging the president.
Right.
And so, okay, we'll just say basically his cognitive abilities. He's an elderly and senile old man who just that would get sympathy from jurors out there. So we believe that a jury might not be convinced. Well, that's every case.
Yeah, right.
Every case a jury might not be convinced.
Right.
And so I would tend to believe is getting closer, because what I was looking for yesterday was that one thing, because he goes, well, there wasn't enough to charge. What do you mean?
Legally speaking.
Right, legally speaking. Forget about his cognitive abilities.
Right.
What was it? Why didn't you believe you could convince a juror? You've got, and let me play this here, because this is Jim Jordan talking about the 8 million reasons to break the law. Here we go.
Mr. Hur, why did he do it? Why did Joe Biden, in your words, willfully retain and disclose classified materials? I mean, he knew the law. Been in office like 50 years. 5 decades in the United States Senate, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, 8 years as vice president. He got briefed every day as vice president. He's been in the Situation Room. In fact, you know he knew the rules because you said so on page 226. President Biden was deeply familiar with the measures taken to safeguard classified documents. And Joe Biden told us he knew the rules. Mr. Armstrong said this earlier. Joe Biden was deeply familiar with it. You're exactly right, because he told us when Jack Smith goes after President Trump, Joe Biden says, how could this happen? What data was in those documents that could compromise sources and methods? It's irresponsible. So Joe Biden knew the rules. You know he knew the rules. And Joe Biden told us he knew the rules. So, Mr. Hur, why did he break them?
Congressman, the conclusion as to exactly why the president did what he did is not one that we explicitly address in the report. The report explains my decision to the Attorney General that no criminal charges were warranted in this manner.
Now, is that true?
I don't think that's true.
Well, we're going to find out right now that it's not true based on what Hur put in the report.
Right.
I think you did tell us. I think you told us, Mr. Hur. Page 231, you said this. President Biden had strong motivations. That's a key word. We're getting to motive now. President Biden had strong motivations to ignore the proper procedures for safeguarding the classified information in his notebooks. Why did he have strong motivations? Because, next word, because he decided months before leaving office to write a book. To write a book. That was his motive. He knew the rules. He broke them because he was writing a book. And you further say, and he began meeting with the ghostwriter while he was still vice president.
And that's the key right there, where Hur, look, you've spent a long time on this.
Yeah.
You're special counsel.
Right.
And
you had all the time you wanted.
And you're being asked, what was the intent? You put down what the intent was, why he did that. Well, that portion of the classified documents, because he wanted to write a book and he wanted to basically impress the ghostwriter and everything else. And so he gave the ghostwriter classified information, some of Afghanistan, apparently, and shared it with him.
Right.
Then the ghostwriter tried, I believe, well, based on the evidence, committed obstruction of justice. And Gates asked him later on, well, why didn't you charge this guy with obstruction of justice? Well, because he only destroyed the audio cuts, not the transcript. Oh, so you can destroy some evidence, but if you don't destroy the other stuff that can still get you, it's not obstruction of justice? And so that's the thing. And you had, I want to get to here, this is would be Matt Gaetz, Andrew McCarthy, Matt Gaetz, not Matt Gaetz. Oh, I can't think of his name. Jason Chaffetz. Andrew McCarthy, Jason Chaffetz, and then Jonathan Turley. Right after it was done, the testimony was done, and some of their analysis. Here we go.
I think the strongest point for the Republicans that was illuminated by Jim Jordan and others was the motivation that Joe Biden may have had, that he had this lucrative $8 million deal and that he wanted to get and impress this ghostwriter. And to, at one point, according to the audio, which we haven't heard but was talked about, is this idea that, hey, I've got this classified information, be careful. I think that goes to motive, it goes to intent, it goes to the thought process that was going through Joe Biden's head. And I thought when Jim Jordan did that line of questioning, a little bit later into the hearing, that was perhaps the most compelling piece that was illuminated in a way that hadn't had a light shed on it and given the emphasis that it needed.
Jonathan, what struck you in this last half hour of the hearing?
Well, I think that overall the weight of the evidence in favor of charging was substantial. I think it explains why he had to emphasize the president's lack of memory and how he might appeal to a jury, because the evidence was not supportive of the president. I think that what was particularly damning in Hur's testimony is his constant reference to facts where the president acknowledged he knew he had classified evidence, that he did the same conduct going back 40 years. And it does leave you with this question of why he then gets this level of deference. But I think it leaves the other obvious question, and that is, why is the Department of Justice prosecuting Trump on the classification questions as opposed to the obstruction questions? That's what the Democrats kept on coming back to, but Trump obstructed. Well, yeah, I mean, you can prosecute on obstruction, but how you can reconcile these two cases, in one being prosecuted and the other not, I'm afraid is beyond me. The evidence seems very strong in terms of Joe Biden willfully retaining and, quite frankly, knowing that he did so.
I'm sorry, I thought we had Andrew McCarthy in that portion also, but that was Jason Chaffetz and Jonathan Turley.
Yeah, it's and Turley making the point on trying to reconcile these two cases. Wow, the motivation is completely different. And it goes back to, well, wait a minute. Now that you and this is why it's important to have these types of testimonies. We looked at this when the report came out and said, okay, tons of questions, and still, even after the testimony, tons of questions.
Well, but what you did get was the clear motivation written in the report, which, interestingly enough, Hur didn't remember. Which is amazing because, so you're the prosecutor and you don't remember what you wrote down as the motivation and intent for the crime?
Right.
That's not believable.
It's not believable because also there was prep time leading up to your testimony.
Well, but how much prep time do you need if you're a prosecutor and you've got over a year to look at one case?
You shouldn't need any.
Right, and you can't tell me in testimony what the intent and motivation was.
You shouldn't need any,
right?
But they do it anyway, and it's usually a few days at least. I don't believe that for a second. He didn't recall. Yeah, you did, because you spent last weekend and the last couple of days reviewing all this before you sat down.
And so you've got motivation and intent on the classified documents with that. You've got over 40 years. The case, and again, I don't know what the official testimony will be for obstruction on Trump. So it's tough to do it because I don't know what precisely they're going to use. But on the Espionage Act, to me, it's 1,000 times stronger to go after Biden than it would ever be Trump. Because Trump was negotiating with, with the National Archives.
Right.
And and it doesn't matter whether it gets testy at times, back and forth, and there's disagreements. It's, there's a whole different ball game when you're president. As Turley pointed out, the stuff that he took as senator that came from a skiff room.
Well, that's
which means he had to take it out of the skiff room.
That's the thing.
That in itself is such a huge crime.
This isn't like it would be for a president. Oh well, the archives was they were packing things up and sending it. That isn't done unless you've been president.
And they pointed out the lies left and right, and we'll get to some of that audio where it's like the president said these were secure. Were they? No. Oh, and by the way, I got to get because he was saying that wasn't consistent with whatever. And finally, I think it was Matt Gaetz says, when you say that, you mean a lie. Oh, yeah. Well, then say a lie.
Right.
But you really had Democrats really couldn't do anything at all except bring up Trump. But I would say, and they really, nobody has said precisely what I have said, so I'd like to see other legal experts on it. But I believe the espionage part of it is so incredibly strong for Biden, where I don't see it as that strong for Trump at all, because, again, he's a president leaving office. Biden wasn't the president.
Biden wasn't,
and he
president.
had it for 40 years, and he knew he had classified documents for decades.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I just want to play this quick audio from the hearings yesterday. This is Representative Kevin Kiley here to Robert Hur.
Based on the facts and anticipation of defenses presented in your report, could a reasonable juror have voted to convict?
As I said in the report, some reasonable jurors may have reached the inferences that the government would present in its case in chief at trial.
So a reasonable juror could have voted to convict based on the facts that you presented?
Correct.
And that was the thing. I mean, it was like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
With Robert Hur to find out, well, why didn't you? And it all comes back to when you look at the evidence that exists, Biden does not have the cognitive abilities. He does not have the mental cognitive abilities to stand trial.
Right.
That's what it came down to.
Yeah.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Someone sent you you got a message or whatever from...
Oh, yeah.
I
let me go
just
back
want to address the guy that...
Hold on a second. Richard writes on X, we're supposed to believe that Biden held on to classified documents for 40 years because of a book deal he got after being vice president. He knew he was going to get the book deal back in 1984. Not the point. And it wouldn't surprise... To answer your question, they all look to enrich themselves at some point, and they're looking to write a book down the road. So to that end, yeah, but it's not the point. The entire point is that did he have the and I guess I don't know what, because Richard didn't tell us what he thinks went on here, but the fact of the matter is that it's a very simple equation. He had no right to take those documents.
Yeah, but nobody's making the point. Is it Richard?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's making the point that Richard said.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's making the point that Biden took the classified documents in 84 for this particular book.
Right.
What they're simply saying is he has been taking classified documents since he was a senator, and these classified documents...
Doesn't matter why he took them.
Right. Doesn't matter why he took them. He shouldn't have taken them. But what they're looking at and what Hur looked at was the book deal while he was vice president, then after vice president,
right.
The book deal, and using it, he's using those top secret documents that he took,
mm-hmm.
and the fact that he believed that he did it, Hur believes he did it, in order to impress the ghostwriter, in order to make that $8 million. That the $8 million was the reason he was using those classified documents. So it's that set of documents that he used there that they have the monetary motivation. Got nothing to do, might have nothing to do with 84. It could, but it doesn't matter. They're picking out this section here.
At any given point in Biden's career, either a senator or vice president, and looking at those documents, he clearly saw a value in having those documents, whether it was a book deal, whether it was leverage, political leverage.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right. There's some reason when you take classified documents and you take them knowingly, there's a reason you do it.
No, you think you've got something, and of course it's selective. You look at that set of documents. He didn't, as far as we know. Maybe I shouldn't speak yet. As far as we know, he didn't set up his an entire library of classified documents that he was exposed to as senator and, for decades, and then as vice president for 8 years. This is, it doesn't matter why he saw a value in them. He didn't have the right to take them. He didn't have the authority.
And all Robert Hur did was point out that the $8 million they believe was why Biden, shared those documents, with the ghostwriter, which in itself, again, is against the Espionage Act. He shared them with someone else.
Right.
So so they're using those documents that he shared to show the monetary intent of why he broke the law.
Right. Yep.
And so,
what's the motivation for doing
Richard,
it?
You're making a case that nobody is making, not even the Republicans.
And here's the thing, too. We're supposed to believe, you start your first question with that, we're supposed to believe. I don't disbelieve that Biden wanted to enrich himself along the way. I can't tell you what he believed in 1984. I can't tell you what his motivation was for taking any of these documents, either as senator or vice president, but we know what he did with them now, according to Hur's report.
Yeah. But he's making a point no one's making.
And here's the thing, too, is that if you couple it with the entire thing that's going on with Hunter and James Biden, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Do you believe for a moment that Joe Biden didn't want to enrich himself through public service? Yeah. But again, because our greatest concern is that Hur is not lined out legally why this was not actionable.
No, I have not. Again, I didn't watch the entire thing. I tried, I was I was doing lawn work, coming in, it's on the TV and back and forth. It was impossible though to watch the entire thing, but I didn't see in any news story where Hur came out and said, here is the legal reason, I didn't charge because it didn't rise to the level of breaking the law.
Right.
So, and by the way, not charge, he would be giving his opinion that the president should be charged. He actually doesn't do the charging.
Right.
Now, Comey believes he might have done the charging, but
yeah.
But no, it's the opinion of what the attorney general would make the charge, and the president would not be indicted while he was president. But the fact is, if they had suggested, yes, he broke the law here, that he broke the law and should be charged, well, at that point, irrespective of what the attorney general would do, because he's not going to indict a sitting president, that's where the political process of impeachment and removal from office would happen. And then when he's out of office, then you charge him with it. But to me, it looked like all signs pointed with the testimony of Hur that the only reason that he is giving for not charging him, there was no legal reason. He never said he did not reach the level of breaking the law. It comes down to the fact that he believes the president of the United States does not have the cognitive ability to stand trial.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then you have to ask your question, he can't stand trial, but he can be president of the United States. It goes back to that. Because there was no reason. Reading here from Turley's thread yesterday, Hur just confirmed again that the President Biden willfully retained classified information. Willfully. He knew it. He notes Biden referred to such material in a recorded message and actually read some of the material to a third party. That stands in direct contradiction of what President Biden claimed publicly before and after the interview. Hur is saying that he was deterred from bringing charges due to the higher standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't even know what that means. He had to consider the president's overall mental state and found that they created obvious defenses for any trial. So it goes back to the mental state of the president. Yeah. Because when you say a higher standard of reasonable doubt, well, what is that specifically in the crime being committed? And Hur doesn't say. And he goes, Hur said that he did not remember that Biden didn't remember what he told his ghostwriter or how documents on Afghanistan came into his house. He notes that the juror might believe the blanket denial of the president, but it's not a blanket denial. He said he didn't remember any of this. Well, no, he gave the blanket denial afterwards, But the fact is the evidence doesn't show that, which to me as a prosecutor would show, because of the number of lies the president has told, that he was telling that second lie in order to slow down the process. So, I mean, that didn't make sense from Hur when he said that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Hur did a great job explaining calmly and clinically why the president's mental faculties were relevant to explaining his conclusions on the underlying allegations. The issue, however, is why some of the charges against Trump, including the simply mishandling of documents, would not be equally compelling in this case. That is separate from Trump's alleged obstruction. He further admits that Biden told a third party that he just found classified materials downstairs. Hur ultimately dismisses the weight of such evidence, which is curious. That is particularly the case when you have an audio recording of Biden saying, I just found all this classified stuff downstairs. That would seem pretty powerful evidence to put before any jury, even when the defendant is claiming a near blackout on memory.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't matter what he says in the deposition. What matters is what is the evidence that you have.
Exactly. Well, any investigation is about following the evidence, and it seems to be ignored here.
Yeah. So none of it helped Biden yesterday. And the Democrats, you could tell the Democrats had nowhere to go.
No.
They had nowhere to go on this.
They didn't. No, they didn't. Where do you go? And it is, part of the storytelling of who Joe Biden is. He doesn't care about the rules. Rules don't apply to him. Didn't care about the rules when he was a senator.
Here's where I would agree with Adam Schiff. I know. I just said that, didn't I? It may be the first and last time I ever say that. Well, when he hit the fact that Hur talked so much about his mental faculties, and that's the reason, because that's what it comes down to. That's the reason you wouldn't charge. And Schiff was saying that shows that you're a partisan. Well, actually, to me, it shows, if you're going to talk about partisanship, it shows partisanship in the other direction.
Yeah.
Because, and he said, well, you shouldn't have put it in there. Schiff has a point. You're not a doctor. You don't put it in there. Simply list the crime that has been done. Say in the interview, the president's mental faculties are either horrible or he's lying to us in the deposition, one or the other, and then leave it to he goes, but on the charges, you should charge, but understand that the president either has tremendous faculty problems or he's lying, and that's the report that you give to the attorney general.
Well, that's it, because what you owe, the only thing you owe is a report to the attorney general, and it's then a suggestion as to what the attorney general should do. You're not even the prosecutor here. You're not even in that way. You're not the one that's going to carry this thing through. It's going to be up to ultimately the AG to do that. So if you look at whether he was fit to stand trial, well, that is more of a defense move. That's a defensive move. So
that's a good point.
Counsel for defense would go, wait a minute, and then they would step in.
Right.
Because you're not a doctor and it's not your job, in fact, it's not part of assessing anything except the legal points and evidence that you have to support your opinion as to whether this is prosecutable. Is this actionable? The answer is yes, it is actionable, but he took the easy road and said, no, we're not going to do it because of his cognitive state.
Now, let me qualify this again so nobody comes back at me saying, I can't believe you agree with Adam Schiff. I agree with Adam Schiff that he shouldn't have made the conclusion based on that. Mm-hmm. But my conclusion is Hur could only come to the point then of stating he broke the law.
Yeah. Right.
He broke the law, and there is enough evidence to charge him, and then tell the attorney general, now his cognitive abilities, because I don't know, because the White House is saying he has no problems. He is as sharp as anybody out there, that young people come in and they can't keep up with him. That's what they're officially stating.
Right.
From the White House. So you simply go, nope, he broke the law. Now, in his testimony, he's either lying or he has no cognitive abilities. I don't know. And so This is something you're going to have. But on the charges alone, on the evidence alone, there is enough to charge.
Right.
And then say.
And leave it.
Right. And then.
Whatever the AG does.
Well,
that's all you
Well, you
owe.
can say there's enough to charge, and you can still say, but there is there's enough to charge him, but we don't know if the president's lying or his cognitive abilities are completely shot based on the deposition, and you leave that with the attorney general.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with Schiff, but we come to it gets us to different conclusions.
By the way, the cop-out is not only the political cop-out, the overall with her, basically, taking himself out of the equation, but it's also throwing himself under the bus for the attorney general. Because it would have been Merrick Garland's decision at that point had he said, or had that report ended with, yes, I believe there's sufficient evidence to charge here.
Right.
Then Merrick Garland has to play ball at that point. And because of its conclusion here from her on cognitive issues, Merrick Garland didn't have to touch it and never will.
866-98-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. Costs are not the same each month. If 9,600 miles are driven one month and 10,000 miles the next, two different sets of costs apply for each month. For example, if your tractor payment is $1,850 per month and you drive 9,600 miles in the month, your tractor payment is costing you 19.3 cents per mile. Drive 10,000 miles, though, and that same payment will cost you 18.5 cents per mile. This is one of your major fixed costs while paying off a truck loan. The difference in this example is only a fraction of a cent, which may seem like small change, but it ultimately amounts to $960 more annually on the bottom line. Because though fixed costs do not go down over time, you can reduce your cost per mile with more paid miles. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let's head to Paul in Illinois about the House Judiciary hearing yesterday with former Special Counsel Robert Hur. Hi, Paul. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
All right. Thank you. Well, Mr. Hur said that he didn't think he could get a conviction at trial because Mr. Hur believed that defense would be that the president was just a feeble, forgetful, well-meaning old man. Now, I know that defense attorneys confer with their clients before putting on a defense. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the Biden family ever would have allowed the president to present it that way. I don't know how Mr. Hur could have come to that conclusion that that's what the defense would be.
That's a great point.
Can you imagine the defense attorneys telling the Biden family that here's what we're going to do. We're going to present you as a forgetful, feeble old man. They would say you're crazy.
That's
a great point. Mr. Hur should have realized that. And for him to go back and say, that's why I didn't try, because that's what the defense is going to be, I think he should have realized that the defense, the Biden family would never have allowed that.
No, that's a great point because he's assuming what the defense of Biden would be.
Exactly.
The prosecutor.
Exactly.
Now, it's something that you always look at if you go to trial.
Sure.
But do you publicly state that? But, again, he's not the prosecutor.
Right. Well, but if it wasn't his place to do it, but even then, if you're going through that thought, Paul, you make the great point that, all right, hold on a second. We already see it right now. I mean, the liberal media is out in force. He's fine. He's more energetic than anybody I know.
Understand it when they prosecuted them, when he went to, if that hypothetically went to trial, he would no longer be president.
Right. But still, he would be Joe Biden. I'm fine. Thank you, Paul, for the, because there's the thing. Even after he were president, then everybody would go, aha, see? I think Paul makes a really great point. Now, we'll never know because we're not going to reach that point. But Biden or the Biden family allowing that? Probably not.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. You can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. Here is I think the big flaw in Robert Hur's explanation. Where he talks about the cognitive abilities of the president. If you look at the president over the last year while this investigation has been going on, what has the president said over and over again? In fact, in the time of the deposition that he gave, what was he saying in public? None of this is true. None of this is true. None of this is true. Everything was kept in secure boxes. When he speaks publicly as the president, everything he did was a lie. And then he went in for the deposition and said, I don't know anything. I don't remember anything. That's where a prosecutor at that point, for her to make that decision, you just don't make it. You don't make the decision just based on the deposition. You make it on what is he saying publicly, right? Any prosecutor would do that.
Yep.
You sit there, watch Law and Order. There's the defendant out there speaking publicly and burying himself.
Right.
We're going to use that in court. We're going to use that in court. And so when you look at the fact that Biden has been the entire time of this investigation, Biden has been lying. The day they took the deposition, that week, Biden was lying. I don't know anything. Or, excuse me, the deposition was I don't know anything. In public, I didn't do that. His deposition contradicts what he has been saying all along. And that's why what Hur should have done is we have enough evidence to charge the president with violating the Espionage Act. He should not have had those things. Here is part of the intent here on these documents, which was he wished to make $8 million through the book and make the book more tantalizing by using top secret information. And he shared it, and that is against the law, and he should be charged. As to the president's cognitive state, I'm not a doctor. I know that, obviously the president is older. And the president, when he gave his deposition, seemed to forget everything, didn't know and couldn't remember anything. But the fact is, what he says in public is completely different from what he said in the deposition. So either the president is lying, selective memory, or he has cognitive problems. I can't make, as a prosecutor, I can't make that determination. I can just tell you that, yes, on the charges or on the evidence, the president has broken the law, and here's the law that he broke, and you give it to the attorney general, and you say, and you say on the charges, on the actual evidence of the charges of the law broken, there's enough evidence to prosecute.
Yep. Right. And leave it.
Leave it with the Attorney General.
Right. But it was a cop-out. It was a cop-out in two ways.
Right.
Politically, Hur knew that he could get people going, oh, well, yeah, cognitive issues. Yeah, you're not going to, of course, the left went crazy. And then, of course, with the Attorney General himself. Well, if you leave that at the feet of the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, now he's got to deal with it. He's got to make a decision.
Well,
and you saved him from having to make that decision.
I was thinking yesterday, I went, wow. With all the Democrats saying, now the new narrative is Trump has cognitive issues. Trump's defense.
Right, yeah.
I have cognitive issues. Our client has cognitive issues, also, so he shouldn't stand trial, but he can run for president if Biden can.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's, and I think, we've said it. We've done it at Turley in the audio cut you played earlier. Jonathan Turley making the point, too. Look, if you're trying to reconcile those two cases, the Trump case and the Biden case, my gosh, they're vastly different. Vastly different.
Yeah,
and moving forward with the prosecution on Trump, versus this. It's
Trump's biggest problem is if the evidence that is out there is true, he's got problems with obstruction of justice. But if you're not going to prosecute clear violations, extremely serious violations of the Espionage Act that were going on for 40 years, and you can tie it to a money-making operation of, he told another person this top-secret stuff in order to make money, well, then what should happen is both cases should go away.
right.
Well, if you're making the case that you're not going to charge Biden under the Espionage Act, and you can clearly say, I don't know if it's cognitive problems because he's saying one thing in public that he didn't do any of those things. We know those are all lies. So either, and as a prosecutor, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Either his staff and family are telling him to lie and he has lost all cognitive abilities, or he's got a selective memory and is lying here, and when he says he doesn't remember, he's either lying when he says, he's lying both ways. He's lying when he says he doesn't remember anything, and he's lying when he says he didn't do anything wrong, because we know he did something wrong. I'm simply telling you there is enough evidence to show that he broke the Espionage Act.
Yeah.
And and then you sit there and say, well, he's a sitting president, and because it's a complete mess now for the Department of Justice. Because if they go ahead with the prosecution of Trump, it's just you have absolutely the criticism that there's a two-tier system of justice that targets one side and not the other. It could not be clearer.
Well, because there's the political effect of it. Does Merrick Garland want to be seen as the AG who helped Trump get elected? I mean, we can go back to the New York State AG. We can go back to the Fonnie Willis case. Oh, my gosh. All these things basically imploding. But we've said all along, it is the documents case with Trump. That is, if there is anything at all, it would be that. And in that case, they're going to have to prove obstruction. And if there's that evidence, that's going to be an issue. But the problem is the difference in the two cases is that Trump was president. Biden wasn't president.
Yes. Trump was.
Two massive
right.
case. That's a massive difference in these two cases. That should be the red flag when it comes to the Biden case. There was no authority. None.
None.
And
the fact that he took, if he was a senator, he took it out as
yes, exactly.
He took it out of a skiff room.
Right.
He should have never had any access. And there's always, as you said, the negotiation process, which really blows the Espionage Act out of the water, going after Trump for that.
Right.
But the biggest problem is, because you had the Democrats out there saying that because he had said, well, we were afraid we couldn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, and then that's where Gates said, well, you're telling me that some juror couldn't be proved beyond a reasonable doubt? Yeah. And it's like, so, what's the difference? He couldn't answer the question.
Right.
He could never answer the question, because the thing is, and I think, and this wasn't talked about enough, and that's why I keep harping on it the last 15 minutes or so, Biden all along in this process has said that he didn't do anything wrong, that everything that Hur said he did do, he has claimed publicly he did not, and then in the deposition didn't remember anything.
Right.
So for him to make the legal conclusion that Biden has cognitive problems and that's why he can't stand trial,
ignores way too much.
As a prosecutor, I could still sit there and go, yeah, I believe he's got cognitive problems because I believe he does. Mm-hmm. But I can't use that as a legal excuse not to prosecute, especially when Biden is pathologically lying, whether it's what he's being told to say, whether it's on the teleprompter and he's being told to say it, doesn't matter. I can't make that decision. I'm not a doctor, so what I'm going to tell the Attorney General is there's enough to charge on the evidence. He may have cognitive problems or he may be a pathological liar.
I can't tell you.
The
process will vet that out.
Right.
Hopefully.
And I don't believe there's anything partisan in what I just said there.
No.
It's all legal.
Right.
There's nothing partisan there.
Right. And it's, but look, I think that's why, look, it makes more and more sense. Yep, of course, this is the road Hur was going to travel down. He knows he's got the political support, the public sentiment of where the president is on cognitive issues. It saves having to prosecute, at some point, a former president. And it also saves the Attorney General, Garland, from having to deal with it himself.
Because we had said we never believed that the Republicans on, for example, the Hunter Biden thing wanted impeachment. Mm-hmm. But if Hur had come out and said, yep, he broke the law, and I can't tell whether he's got, I can't tell, when it goes to trial, for example, whether the president has cognitive problems or just a pathological liar, because everything he has said over the last year, we found that to be false, that to be false, that to be. The president consistently lied in public, and then when we did the deposition, claimed to know nothing. But at the same time, would be out the next day and weeks afterwards saying he did nothing wrong.
Right.
So I can't make that decision on it. All I will tell you is there is enough to prosecute on the Espionage Act right here.
Right.
And because we have the intent, the motivation on these set of documents here to make money to write the book, to impress the ghostwriter. We have the ghostwriter with obstruction of justice here. And so, yes, we believe Biden should be prosecuted, and so should here. These may be the problems that you would have. Is he lying, or is his cognitive abilities so great I can't make that decision? But we know he's a pathological liar because what we found out that the evidence states that when the president denies he did no wrongdoing, the president is lying based on what the evidence is.
Right.
But doing this and not being able to give a legal reason, he never said there isn't enough, he never said Biden didn't break the law. And he never said Biden never reached the level of breaking the law.
Right.
He said he broke the law, but some jurors might not say that's enough evidence. What are you talking about? It's clear he broke the law.
Right.
He had the top secret documents. That's breaking the law.
Trying to project what a jury might or might not do. It's not the point.
Right.
It's whether the legal standard was met.
Right.
And you've got to reach that point.
Well, and if you want to say, look, juries may be so partisan that they could be tainted and you may not be able to get the result you want, well, that's always the case right now.
Tell me what case doesn't have that in play.
Well, especially right now especially right now, we see it with Trump.
Oh, yeah. Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. We'll continue with some of your comments on the hearing yesterday. Plus, we need to get to also inflation.
Yeah.
And what that was. I'm just reading here. Hold the inflation champagne.
Well, you know, it seemed you had too many analysts and even to a certain extent the Fed. Maybe they didn't have champagne in hand, but they were just ready to. All right, we're going to start seeing rate drops. This goes back to December. We're going to start seeing rate drops as early as March. And I'm thinking, yeah. I don't know if you've already drank the champagne because you sound drunk. What is it that you're pointing? Show me something. Explain to me why you would see that. And, of course, now we're seeing. Yeah, they're not on top of inflation.
And the other thing is, Biden's post-polling numbers after the State of the Union.
Right.
No bump.
No bump at all.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet Earth. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, this is what you just shake your head at when you hear stuff like this. Representative Jay Paul yesterday from the squad, and talking to the former special counsel Hur, and the Democrats did this a few times yesterday. When they'll say, "So, you're saying that 1 and 1 is not 2." No, I'm saying that 1 and 1 is 2. So what you're saying is 1 and 1 is not 2. No, I'm saying 1 and 1 is 2. It's my time, sir.
Yes.
That's what I thought about this exchange back and forth yesterday. Listen to this.
Charges are warranted in this matter.
Correct.
So this lengthy, expensive, and independent investigation resulted in a complete exoneration of President Joe Biden. For every document you discussed in your report, you found insufficient evidence that the president violated any laws about possession or retention of classified materials. The primary law that you analyzed for potential prosecution was part of the Espionage Act, 18 U.S.C. 793E, which criminalizes willful retention or disclosure of national defense information. Is that correct?
Congresswoman, that is one statute that we analyzed. I need to go back and make sure that I take note of the word that you used, exoneration. That is not a word that
I'm going to continue with my questions. I'm going to continue with my questions. I know that the term
I ultimately reached
I know that
whether
the term
sufficient evidence existed such that the likely outcome
you exonerated
would be a conviction.
I know
that
the term willful retention has a Mr. Hur, it's my time.
You exonerate him. I did not exonerate him. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. No, I didn't exonerate. Yes, you did exonerate him. No, I didn't. It's my time. And by the way, what she was stating there is not true. Because actually right there, everything that she said, that the Espionage Act is, number one, having top secret defense stuff you shouldn't have and then sharing it.
Right.
And you've exonerated him out. Well, I didn't exonerate him on it because that's what he did.
Right.
It's like, wow.
Well, it's, again, it's arguing with a child.
Yep. And truly, if you're talking about any member of the squad, they truly are children.
They really are.
They are children with adult bodies.
Yeah. It's like Fez from that 70s show. I said good day. Trying to end the conversation. I said exonerate. Yeah, but it wasn't. Exonerate. It's my time. All right. You can state as many falsehoods in your time as you want.
But that's the problem. That's number one. That's the problem with her.
Yeah.
Is when you don't make it clear what, except for the fact of the cognitive issues. And that could be debated.
Mm-hmm.
Because the president is pathologically lying that he did nothing wrong in public, and then when he has a deposition, he doesn't remember anything, and you say he's a feeble old man. Well, then who's the man who is lying consistently and saying the exact opposite of what he says in the deposition?
When I saw that exchange that we just played yesterday, I thought, well, wait a minute. This actually works for Republicans or anybody making the point that Hur should have suggested. In his report, he should have come to the conclusion that he broke the law, and here's why, and left it at the feet of Merrick Garland, because it was kind of one of those moments. I mean, this wasn't going to happen, but I was hoping Hur would, maybe wishing, look, if they can live in a delusional state, I can for a minute, that he would stand up and go, he clearly broke the law.
Well, I do like the fact now that we are slowly being convinced if they can be delusional all the time, then can't we just be, is it justifiable that we can be
exactly
in delusion a little bit of the time once in a while?
I wanted that Colonel Jessup moment. Damn right I ordered the code red. I wanted that, but it wasn't going to happen.
Hold it. Jesse Ventura as vice president, what would you do in this situation?
I'll tell you you tell me what I would do.
Well, no, that's why we're asking. No.
Well, here's a question I'd have for Jesse. If you become Robert Kennedy's vice presidential nominee, will you live in the United States?
The powers that be won't allow me to live in the United States. No. I'm going to Costa Rica.
You'd be vice president of the United States.
Of Costa Rica.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, we are
seriously.
We are so doomed. Oh, my God.
Oh, my gosh. Geez. Oh, please let it be Ventura. Please. I seriously want Ric Flair, but Ventura. Now, if the Macho Man were still around, oh, yeah, I'm going to be the vice president, yeah. I'm going to go to the White House, yeah. That would have been, I would have donated to the campaign.
It was a couple weeks ago, just going through some of my streaming channels, and They Live was on.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
And I just, it always makes me sad that Roddy Piper is dead, and I wasn't even a wrestling fan, but I just loved him in that movie. I mean, that is probably the best B movie ever made.
You know what's interesting? I that actually crossed my mind. The appeal for professional wrestling, because I watched Iron Claw recently. My wife and I watched it.
How was it?
It's good. It's very good.
Okay.
I think there were some misses on casting, especially with Cary Von Erich, the actor that played him, is 5'7", and Kerry Von Erich was 6'4",
Yeah.
6'5". I think David actually was the tallest of the sons. He was like 6'7", 6'8". Dad was Fritz was huge, very tall. They all were, and so, but the storyline, if you live in Texas or if you grew up in that era, but especially here in North Texas, we're just miles from where, just a few miles from where the family used to live. But I was thinking about it, and also the appeal of wrestling for me has always been 99.99% of it, the stuff that happens outside the ring. I mean, the matches, okay, fine. I mean, Raw still has, the WWE is crushing it now. And you see all that. But it's, for me, it's always been about, and going back and watching the different wrestling organizations, the one that was Atlanta-based at the time, on what used to be WTCG, which is now TBS. Watching that on Saturday afternoons, growing up, the Fabulous Freebirds, that kind of thing. But it was all about, their grandstanding on the mic and all of that. It really, the wrestling was cool because it showed their true athletic ability. We all knew it was all contrived, but it doesn't mean that the work wasn't put in.
Yeah,
you have to put in the work in order to make those things happen.
When I think of They Live, I mean, one of the longest and greatest fight scenes ever. Roddy Piper and Keith David going at it. It's just like, oh, man. Watching, was it the Iron Claw?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be, I've told the story before, but when I was really, really poor, I mean, that's when I lived I was in Marshall, Texas. I was living in that small apartment that had cockroaches in the refrigerator and fire ants coming through the floorboard.
Yeah.
But I was working for a small radio station there, and wrestling was coming to town.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I wanted to be the bell ringer. Now, I knew nothing about wrestling.
Right.
And Kerry Von Erich was there. And that's when they would go to the small towns. And I mean, the small towns would just, you might have
our station was a big part of that. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you might have a town of 20,000 people that had a 3,000, seat arena and 3,000 people.
They would sell it out, man.
It'd be just sold out. And it was a zoo. And I was the official bell ringer for I don't remember why. So afterwards, I go back and I'm able to go into where the wrestlers are. And I probably had a 90-minute conversation with Kerry Von Erich.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one I talked to when I went back there. And it was just... And it was a great conversation, and he got such a kick out of me because I was completely clueless.
Right.
And when I asked the question, I go, "Do you make any money doing this?" Because I was making no money, so it's like, I can't be a wrestler, but I wonder if they make money.
Right.
He laughed. He goes, "Yeah,
right,
a lot."
Yeah.
And he just laughed. He thought it was great. I remember I walked him out. I was walking out. His limo was there, and I'm going to the parking lot, and he was by himself and said goodbye.
Yeah.
Shook his hand, and and years later, when he committed suicide, I mean, it was a sad day for me. I went,
it was heartbreaking.
Me. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because he was such a nice, to take the time that he took.
Yeah.
I've always been a nobody, and he was a somebody, and he just treated me like, he treated me great. You just saw that he was a regular guy.
One venue that we were part of, the station I was was part of, had them in like a theater setting, so the ring was on the stage, but there were no seats around. There were a few, but really no audience right up close to the ring, which there normally is. So it was like a horrible venue, but they still pulled it off. And same thing, backstage, all very likable, people, and the Von Erich's just part of the North Texas footprint forever,
and Niagara Falls, because that's where
they
lived there for a while.
The thing about the casting with Kerry, especially, you've got to get it right. They did, I think, on the part with David, there was one scene between Kerry and Fritch, where Kerry's, just kind of he gets in Fritch's face, and not that he would tower over his dad because they were roughly the same height somewhere, but that presence, that huge presence would have been felt, I think, in that moment. And it was a key moment because it was related eventually to a suicide, not necessarily the anger in that moment, but there was an item in that moment, a physical item that was related to the suicide. And so, but otherwise, I think Zac Efron did a good job. I think that was, I think it was a good movie.
I can be one of the judges of that because I was up close to him for a significant period of time.
Yeah. Well, again, they had to do a lot of athletic training just to do the movie. So
I could imagine.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Some comments and questions about Robert Hur yesterday in the testimony before the House Judiciary Committee. Coming up, 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let's go to Tim in Pennsylvania. Tim, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi.
How you doing?
Good. Good.
You're on. Can't they make the president take a cognitive test?
Who would make him do that?
Who's they?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think his wife should make him take it, but her head's too far up in the limelight. She should be charged with elderly abuse.
Well, this is, look, I think it's wrong if there are cognitive issues and they know about it, and they do know about it if there are. It is wrong what they're doing, and thanks for the call, but you're not going to charge anybody for it.
Let's go to Dave in Wilmington, North Carolina. David, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi.
Hi, thanks. You guys touched on my point. I appreciate that. That Jayapal, in the exchange with her, of course, kept trying to put words in his mouth, and he tried to get away. But even though she was a rude child, as you said, she did succeed in bearing the point that he kept trying to say, yes, it was enough evidence, but not enough to get a jury conviction. And I'm surprised and disappointed that the Republicans didn't say, let's go down that road. So there's enough to charge for a crime, but not enough to get a conviction from a jury. Why would that be? Those are two different things.
No, that's a great point. No, that's a solid point.
Yeah, right.
Why are you assuming what the jury would do? What is your reason to assume it? Is it strictly because you're saying by the letter of the law he committed these crimes with the evidence you presented, but you've said that you may not be able to convince beyond a reasonable doubt, and the only specific you have used is his cognitive abilities. And I would also bring up, but you claim he's got cognitive problems here, but you know that in the public he has been stating the complete opposite and has been consistent all along that he did none of the things that you proved he did. So how do you actually know it's a cognitive problem?
And David, I brought this up earlier as you lay it out so well, projecting that onto a jury that hasn't even been selected yet, and you know that as a special prosecutor here, Hur knows the process. You know that, my gosh, you can get and location is going to be everything too, but all these different factors, jury selection is a process for a reason. And also when you project out that, well, the jury would find this and would find that, that's up to the defense and ultimately prosecutor that's going to be prosecuting the case to work out through the process. And you're projecting that out.
Doesn't the jury need to have a unanimous verdict? So the chances of any jury selection being 100%
exactly
willing to convict the president is impossible, and that was Hur's point.
Right, because that's the weird part, and you're so right, very perceptive there that Republicans should have asked the question. Well, what you're saying is the evidence shows he committed the crime, but you can't convince a jury.
Right.
Is it only based on the cognitive abilities that the defense may come back and say, look, he's not able to stand trial because he isn't mentally fit?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'd be okay with that.
Right.
Because the
They don't
defense
even have to explain themselves. They just have to.
Right.
They just have to vote not guilty, for whatever reason. But can I make a point about the two-tier thing?
Yeah. Go ahead.
That Team Biden had the benefit of seeing Trump's home raided.
Oh yeah.
And about the raid, it didn't make sense that Trump, being a germaphobe, and he's probably very meticulously neat, given his passion for luxury living. I can't imagine him being in a home with documents and boxes strewn about like I think those were staged photos. I can't see that in a Trump home. But on the two-tier thing, Team Biden had the full awareness, hey, documents are going to be an issue here, and to say, call them up. Can we make an appointment and come to your home in Delaware and check things out? Of course you'll cooperate. So it's totally two-tier. So, and that wasn't brought up.
The pictures were, they staged the pictures, but nobody, not even the Trump lawyers, are stating that. I mean, they staged where they put them in a particular order and took a picture of it,
right?
You know, because they weren't at that. You know, but Trump isn't even denying that he had classified documents at Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
He's not denying that at all.
It's not staged to the point that they brought in those.
Right.
And thank you, David. They brought in the documents. But yeah, I mean, when you're taking photos of evidence like documents, then you're going to have to put on display basically, and it's staged in that way.
Right.
But the Trump defense is not making the case that he didn't have them. He didn't have documents.
Autonomous individuals in unison. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
Yeah. Autonomy. Yeah.
Yeah.
We like autonomy.
Yeah.
All right. Did get one question earlier from a listener stating the question is, why won't Republicans impeach Biden for the documents? Well, number one, you'd have to ask the leadership for that. But if you were to ask me, is because they wouldn't win the political battle.
Right.
You would not remove him from office. My belief is Republicans have never really wanted to impeach Biden without removing him from office in the Senate.
Right.
And so the only thing that would drive them, if the special counsel had come back and said he committed, these are the crimes the evidence showed, by the evidence, he should be charged. His mental acuity, well, either he has cognitive problems or he's a liar, one or the other, and that's up to the eventual prosecutor, but there is enough evidence to charge. At that point, depending on public opinion, because impeachment is a political process, you could then go forward with probably a better chance in the Senate. But you're not going to win it in the Senate. And the whole goal of the Republicans is not to impeach. By the way, impeachment doesn't mean anything anymore. It's a censure. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah. There is no clout to impeachment. After they impeached Trump twice, it lost any oomph because you look at it and you go, no, bogus, bogus, bogus.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean anything. Trump is the leading contender, and he's been impeached twice. Doesn't mean anything unless you remove him, unless you remove the person you're going after from office.
Telling the story, presenting the evidence, that means everything.
And I think that's what they're doing right now, and with the public. Now, you look at this right now, and you have to look at any decision you would make as of today. Where are we right today? Well, when you see the polling that has come out, and I've looked at all the polling since the State of the Union address, no bump for the president. None. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
A State of the Union address
during a re-election year.
I don't remember the last time a president didn't get a bump. Maybe it's happened. I don't remember it, and I would think that would be something that would stick in my mind because you always get a bump.
Yeah.
And the only thing is, right now, people have made their decision, and if they haven't made their decision, independents are not swayed by anger and fury. In fact, that tends to turn them off. Liberals, that's why you saw the Democrats, the liberal Democrats, go crazy about it. Why? They live in the age of, as Jonathan Turley has quoted, the age of rage. You rage about everything to the point where, the sky isn't falling. Doesn't matter how loud you scream the sky is falling, it's not falling.
Right.
But they live, and I'm talking about liberal Democrats, and that would be the Democrats in Congress on the national level. They live for rage. They sit there and go, he did great because he was infuriated and was yelling at everybody. Well, that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They yell at everybody.
Right.
And so so there, it's great, it's great, it's great. I don't see any bump at all. In fact, you might be able to make the point, and we'll look into some of the polling later. I think it was John Nolte saying that Biden's approval rating actually has dropped and Trump's lead grows since the State of the Union. I'll have to look at some of the polls he's looking at. But that never happened. So you look at that right there. There's no bump. Now, after all of this, what you saw yesterday, the public hasn't changed at all on his cognitive abilities at all.
Right.
No difference from what I can see at all. And yesterday made it worse for the Democrats. And now you got Comer. I'm like, did you see where Comer's going through with the last 13 years of Hunter Biden's phone calls? I'm like, only now? But I think even in that, in the Hunter Biden thing, the Hunter Biden was Joe Biden compromised. All they want to do every day is give you new impressions, new media impressions over and over again because they understand. Republicans now understand the mainstream media. It doesn't matter. You and I go to Newsbusters and it says CBS, NBC, CBS, NBC, and ABC didn't cover any of this whatsoever, and neither did CNN or MSNBC. Doesn't matter anymore. Doesn't matter whether they cover it.
No.
Doesn't matter.
No.
And when you see, for example, CNN's, we'll get, I think it was one of their, Democrat too, just pounding going, this makes Biden look horrible. The special counsel. So we'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. So that's where you are right now. So everything they just want to throw between now and then is, Karine Jean-Pierre. They can use it. Look at the White House yesterday, selling that everything is great. Inflation's going down. People are seeing the progress. This is delusional. They're not.
No,
and we'll go through some of those numbers here in a little bit. So you've got that. I've talked to more people that are concerned that what's going to go on in Gaza is going to get American troops killed.
Well, I mentioned it yesterday. You're putting our troops in harm's way to help Hamas.
Yep. And so that happens. They're not going to be dropping rates anytime soon.
No.
Gasoline prices are now the highest they've been in 4 months, and
we haven't started the driving season even.
We haven't started the driving season, and they're just starting with the summer blends.
Yeah, right.
Mostly in April is when you'll see them come out.
Yep.
So you're going to see an increase of gasoline throughout the summer unless the economy slows down big time.
Right.
But then that won't be good. And so you've got that there. So all they want, Republicans want, and that's the goal. The goal is not to censure someone, to sit there and go, okay, you did naughty things, and give the Democrats a chance, as they did yesterday. They may not be successful, but that's why, and Jonathan Turley wrote it, the reason that you give a deposition to both the president and Hunter Biden, you make them do depositions, is exactly because of yesterday. That's why you do the depositions, because then you get the transcript of the deposition.
Right.
And that's the legal setting where they actually have to answer questions, and you don't get the deflection by the other side.
Right.
But they want drip, drip, drip every day. They believe they can win the election. By the way, as we've warned Republicans, you can also lose this election.
Mm-hmm.
Trump can lose this election.
Yep.
Now, it's his to lose, I believe. If he loses it, he will be the reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's not now. Will he reach out? He doesn't need. If he believes he needs the heavy rhetoric to keep his base together, that's the biggest chance of him losing.
I don't think he needs anything to keep his base together.
You and I had the discussion yesterday. I said, does he need to spend 1 second at his base? And nope.
No. They're with him.
Everything is, how do I get Democrats who are wary of the Democratic Party and independents to vote for me?
Yep.
That should be his only concern. And he doesn't, as we've stated before, he doesn't have to take liberal positions. All he has to do is look and go, every position that I hold is where the majority of independents are. I'm simply going to sell them. If you're an independent, vote for me because we agree on this. We agree on this. We agree on this. And everything the independents and even the Democrats that are willing to vote for Trump, they all agree with what Trump is promoting. So it's not that Trump is going over to the left to try to convince him. He's convinced Democrats, and he's convinced minorities who would not normally vote for him to vote for him based on where he stands. And that's the beauty of if he sells it right, there's nobody saying, well, he's compromising here or he's compromising there.
Right.
You can't make that case.
Right.
And so the big problem is the drip, drip, drip of Biden. And he keeps getting worse. He's had a horrible couple days out there, mumbling and stumbling all over the place.
You know, the whole liberal media surrogate defense of, look at his energy, and, Scarborough and all the stuff surrounding State of the Union and after State of the Union last week fell apart almost immediately.
Yeah, I know. By Friday, it was gone.
It was like, oh, my gosh. And which is why, look, if you're a staffer, I know why you do it. We know why Scarborough does it, because he's told to do it by his wife, not the White House.
Yeah, right, Mika tells him.
And anybody else in that equation, it's like, look, we all get old. Come on. And he's fine. He's fine. It would be so impossible. I actually thought about this the other day. Where would you go? What do you say positive? It's stupid to do what, they've been doing. I've never seen anyone with that kind of energy. I'm sorry. You're trying to convince us that behind closed doors, it's very different than what we see out in public. You're not going to win that. Right. I guess you could just scrape by saying his mind is very sharp. And then just move on, deflect. I don't know. But that whole defense that week just imploded. And we can see now there was no real bump. In a re-election year, I was asking this last week, and I'll phrase it this way. Where's the candy? Where's the gimme? Because typically for a liberal especially, we want to give you. You can go back and even pick a few things out and say, well, he did this and he said that. But he sounded angry the whole time. And that's the problem. Right. Who was it somebody at National Review that said, yeah, but he sounds, if he's so positive and he sounds really angry about it.
The country's doing so great and he's furious. It's furious. Like it doesn't. There was a huge disconnect. So for the impeachment, there has to be a political reason or a reason for your advantage to do it. And I don't believe the Republicans, and again, I'm not part of the Republican leadership or the Republican National Party at all, so I have no idea what they're thinking, but that would be my best guess. The whole thing is drip, drip, drip all the way through the election, and then win the election, and then it's over.
Yeah.
Then that's your goal, is to win elections, and impeachment is a censure process, and if you have the House impeach him, and you may not have that. What do they have? How many vote lead do they have now that what's his name left, since Buck left?
Oh, I don't know. What is it? It's down to a handful.
Yeah. And by the way, I do believe this, he did not vote to impeach Mayorkas, and, it immediately was on CNN afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
There's I won't say a ton, a significant portion of Republicans who are much like the 1/8 of the group that supported Trump, if you go back to 2016, that just didn't care whether Trump won, just wanted to destroy the Republican Party. I believe there are never Trumpers out there and other Republicans that wish that especially after Trump gained control of the RNC, that wishes the Republican Party to be destroyed.
No, I think I'm with you on that.
And I think that's one of the reasons that he didn't wait, and he's out next week, is he wants to do anything he possibly can to hurt where the current Republican Party is going.
No labels. I mean, if you're going to gain any attention beyond leaving, you can do it on sitting on CNN.
Buck being noble, I don't know. I don't see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, they've gone quiet now. What are they doing? Anything going on at No Labels after?
Oh, they're doing a lot. They just can't tell us.
Okay.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll take a look at the inflation numbers coming up, and also the post State of the Union polls out there. Actually, it's the Harris ex Harvard poll that shows that after the State of the Union, Biden actually lost and Trump gained.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. But every other poll post State of the Union shows Trump still leading. And you don't really see a bump at all, which is so unusual. But that's because I think when you see some of the numbers, the cognitive abilities and what they blame him for, these are long-standing poll numbers, so they may not easily be moved by somebody who is screaming at you.
No, I mean, that's... And also, after Super Tuesday, you're a couple of days after Super Tuesday, you've got it down to the wire, basically. Down to the two guys. And many have decided, even Democrats, in fact, they don't want Biden to be the guy.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, just throwing out some figures here from the primaries last night. Officially, Trump went over the top. Biden went over the top. So
yeah,
it's officially Trump-Biden.
Okay.
But one of the things that we've been looking at is what is the excitement level. Now, for example, it's tough to tell in many of these primaries because there may be other things on the ballot. There may be state races that energize, certain parties. But overall, we've been looking at the primaries, and obviously there's more excitement. It seems to be there's more excitement for people to go out in the Republican Party than in the Democrat Party. We have stated in some of those states with open primaries, it's like, okay. But how many did Haley really get? And is there like an absurd amount, like 30 or 35% or something, or even 20% or 25% that may be voting for Haley? Well, I looked at Georgia. It's almost 2-1 number of Republicans that came out compared to Democrats. And in Washington State. Now, Washington State is a state that Biden took by roughly, it's plus or minus a little bit here, but roughly 800,000 votes. All right?
Okay.
Yesterday, maybe 50,000 more Democrats came out and voted than Republicans in a state where Biden won by 800,000 votes in 2020. So everything that I have seen, even taking into consideration those open primaries, has shown, especially in swing states that matter, there's more excitement for Republicans than Democrats.
Right. Okay.
Just a quick analysis. Whether that will extrapolate out and have anything to do with the final vote in the November election, who knows?
Well, I guess the question would be, what dynamic would change the fundamental dynamics at play based on the issues that people are most concerned about? It's the economy / inflation and the border. And
or for the Democrats, you may not be excited because you don't want to go out because you don't want to vote for Biden, and I'm just not going to vote for uncommitted. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to vote. But then when it's Trump against Biden, you got to vote against Trump.
Could be. When it comes down to the wire, that sometimes will be the case. Polling doesn't reflect it, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but I can't have Trump winning again. And then they show up. Or the independent, kind of the same thing. Working against Biden is two-tier justice system, the border, the economy, all the things that Biden has caused. But if at the end or at some point it gets down to the wire, their disdain for Trump overrides all of that. I know you're shaking your head, maybe, but if that happens, then that's how elections happen. It's why the focus from the Trump campaign has to be on the issues. You and I don't see a debate stage coming together.
No.
So what is it going to be? It's going to be Trump in the media. It's going to be Trump at rallies. It's going to be the conventions.
This may be the difference, though. If Biden is down in the polls significantly by that time, and there's, the ads aren't working, nothing is working, and Trump is starting to pull away, and their internal polls show that, I could see, as a last desperate move, Biden debating.
It's interesting that you say that because I've been wondering since Super Tuesday and then especially after State of the Union, does my question in the whole hype week, oh, no, his energy's great. I've never seen anybody that energetic. No, I thought to myself, well, now you're setting the stage for Biden having to live up to that hype. And it's going to be important that he lives up to that hype all along the way between now and November 5th, of course.
Right.
Not just that week.
The reason it won't happen is because you can't give a week's notice.
No, they have to be planned.
Yeah, they need to be planned.
They got to be planned.
It can't be like Biden's refusing. Well, nobody's going to plan a debate if Biden keeps refusing, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of September and Biden goes, all right, I'll debate next week.
Now, also a positive, the change in leadership at the RNC, including Laura Trump having Clearly, a ton of say-so here. Trump having a ton of say-so here at the RNC. Hopefully, if they get to that point of negotiating and it starts to look like they're going to try and plan a debate or two. I'm hoping, and maybe I'm delusional for hoping, that the GOP will say, hey, we have some, this is what we want met. These are the standards we want met here on the debate stage. But again, I can't put my hope in something like that. It comes down to whether or not Biden or his team believe that he can withstand a debate. I don't think he can. I don't think at all he can do that, but they might. At some point, they may say, we can't not do it. If you get him, here's the thing, all you have to do if you're Trump is throw things his way and go, well, look, his family takes money from foreign entities and blah, 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 blah. This guy, he's a liar. He caused inflation. He's got the open border. I mean, you just get him on the defense the entire. Look, he was giving a State of the Union and he was in a defensive posture the entire night. His tone is a defensive tone naturally now. So if you got him if you just keep lobbing things over at him on a debate stage, he's going to come unglued.
Well, remember the MSNBC interview the other day?
Mm-hmm.
Where he wouldn't answer a question.
Right.
And you even had I can't remember who it was who was interviewing him, just laughed like, oh, you're not going to answer it. You're just like,
right.
I'm not going to answer. It's like, wow.
And then he had that smirk on his face.
But he wouldn't challenge him.
Right.
And that's the whole point. If you have him in an interview where he is challenging, Mr. President, that isn't true. Right. You're not telling the truth.
Right.
How will he respond?
Right. And if
no one knows.
If Trump is throwing things at him relentlessly, which is exactly what I would advise, just don't let up. Don't let up. Boom, 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 all night long. He'll be flustered in the first minute and won't be able to talk. He's incoherent as it is when he's on script. You don't get a script on the debate stage. And that's the problem. That's a tremendous liability. And if you have one debate, are you going to have two?
Who was it last week for the Democrats who was talking about? It was a Bill Maher.
Mm.
He needs to embrace his age, embrace his age.
Mm-hmm.
Reading here from The Nation, the longest liberal publication.
Mm-hmm.
Katrina Vanden Heuvel. Man, I haven't heard from her in a longest time. Anybody, reprint something from hers, but it was on Real Clear Politics. Keep talking about President Biden's age. Why he should exploit for political purposes his wisdom and experience.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so
now,
Trump should do the same thing?
Now, what kind of drugs
Yeah.
are out there?
Yeah, right.
Who's I mean, that's the position now. You're going to have more people saying, well, okay, we can't do anything about it. He needs why he should exploit for political purposes his wisdom and experience. In what?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. But that's kind of where that is where the delusional left wants to live, at least till November 5th.
Yeah.
The majority of their party rank and file, they know it, they see it. But that's who they're trying to convince. Scarborough wasn't, you can say, hey, Republicans. No, you're trying to convince the left. You're trying to convince the Democratic voter everything's fine. That what they're seeing, they're not actually seeing. And the fact that there's no bump from the State of the Union shows you didn't do it. You didn't pull it off. you can't.
Yeah, we'll have some of those numbers coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Roadside inspections all begin with the driver interview, during which the officer will gather basic information from the driver and prepare the driver for the inspection. The officer will also be evaluating the driver, determining if the driver can speak English, is under the influence of anything, has an illness, or is fatigued. The officer will ask the driver for required documents, including vehicle and driver credentials, the driver's log, and shipment paperwork. The officer may also conduct a vehicle inspection. Before beginning the inspection, the officer will take steps to make sure the inspection can be done safely. These include chalking the wheels, wearing personal protective equipment, and explaining what will be required of the driver. The driver needs to pay close attention to these instructions so that the vehicle inspection can be conducted in a manner that is safe for the inspection official. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, so this is really interesting now. There was one poll that was taken last Thursday before the State of the Union address, because we look at all the different polls, and it showed Biden was up, I think, by 2 in one of the polls, and we said, okay, that's an outlier of the number of polls that are out there. And so we said, okay, we need to start looking at, after the State of the Union address, where do the polls go? Well, Real Clear Politics and as they scan the polls, there's not one post-State of the Union address poll that shows Biden has the lead. When you look at Harris X poll, the Harris X Forbes poll, which was taken 3 days following the State of the Union address, Joe Biden saw his approval rating drop and Trump's tick up. Just a week prior to last week's State of the Union, Biden's approval rating was 39%, disapproval 56%. That's 17 points underwater. The Harris X Forbes polled again after the Thursday State of the Union address between March 8th and March 10th shows Biden's job approval rating now 37%, disapproval rating 58%, minus 21 points. Before the State of the Union, Trump, this is Harris X, 46-42 over Biden. Post State of the Union, 46-41. It was +4. Now it's +5. Trump gained a point. Wow. The pre-State of the Union address with leaners, Trump 52, Biden 48. Let me see. And so that would have been pro. I'm trying to look at here. Okay, I must be missing something here. It doesn't make sense because then they go into the five-way. 52-48, pre-State of the Union. The five-way, Trump 40%, Biden 36%, Robert Kennedy 11%, Cornel West 2%, Jill Stein 1%. The five that was post Trump 41, Biden 35, Kennedy 12, Cornel West, it just says percent, and Jill Stein 1, but he went from +4 to +6. Trump picked up 4 points. Wow. So that hurt, and every other poll I see, Trump is in the lead. Now, whether Biden gained a half a point, I don't know in those particular polls, but in that comparison there's no evidence yet that shows, and there probably won't be now, that shows that Biden had any type of pickup in the polls, which is so unusual. But
usually there's at least a temporary bump.
you saw early on, especially with the independents, whether it was Frank Luntz out there, whatever, they were all saying, this isn't good for Biden. Independents don't like to be yelled at.
Well, and that's the thing, is that he could be talking to somebody he agrees with, and he sounds like he's scolding them. That's his demeanor. And when because watch him with a friendly crowd. State of the Union is only half friendly. Watch him in a friendly setting when he's giving a speech, doing a campaign stop. And, and that's where it comes up. No, serious. No joke. Well, no, nobody's debating you in that setting, but he always has that position and that demeanor like he's being debated by the people who agree with him.
He was 15 minutes in, and he hadn't got by Ukraine and January 6th.
Right.
And if you're an independent,
yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, when you see the Ukraine thing inside of Congress, it's big. In the media, it's big. I don't sense that Ukraine is a deciding factor for anyone in the election.
Yeah.
That's not what drives them to vote. Not saying it's not important. I'm simply saying what is driving people.
Right.
What's driving
Does that
people,
motivate them to vote in a certain way?
What is driving people right now? Illegal immigration.
The economy.
The economy. That's what's driving them.
Yep.
That's and by the way, the economy is inflation.
Yeah. Right.
And so the whole thing on, think about this. Has the president been out there post talking much shrinkflation? Because that seemed to bomb.
Oh, that didn't go well.
That was like we're gonna
go well.
We're gonna pound this. We're gonna pound shrinkflation. That it's corporate greed, but the public never believed that inflation was corporate greed. Now, the partisans will argue about it. Not really a lot of arguing from people when they talk about inflation and what's causing it. And if there is, that argument is easily defeated. You and I were talking about a couple of weeks ago how it was all over. Here's the profits these companies made. It said Walmart, $155 billion. I don't even know where they were getting the numbers from. They were just making up the numbers. And it was like, Walmart made $155 billion in profits last year. No, it made $11 billion worldwide. And when you look at the profit margins, all within, actually the vast majority of businesses mentioned were below the roughly 7.7% average of profit margins of companies in the United States. They were below, and you're talking, 2.5% to 3% or 2.5% to 3.5% profit margins.
Well, and the consumer looks at that and basically they look at it. They know what the game is. They know they can shop at Walmart or maybe go to the dollar store. Or, if you're talking about discount retailers, they know there's wide competition. They know how this thing goes. They're not blaming corporations. They know what inflation looks like.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Please, White House, do this. Please, 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 please do this. Please do this. It's a story where PETA is pressuring the First Lady to not use eggs for the Easter egg roll, but
please.
Potatoes instead.
The potato roll.
Please do that. Please, please, please do that.
Yeah, right.
And call it a spudtacular is what they.
Okay.
Please do that. Please do that.
Is this the year that that Biden finally steps out during the Easter egg roll and screams, "Hey, you kids, get off my lawn"? I'm waiting for it. He's been fighting the urge to do that. Now, was it last year? That the Easter Bunny
interview
did the hard-hitting interview with him and got him to say that he's running again to announce. That's where he announced it? Yeah. Oh, and Al Roker, the world's greatest journalist ever, along with the Easter Bunny. You know that was Jake Sullivan in the costume. You know it was Jake Sullivan. You know it was. Come on, Jake. That was you, right? That was you.
All right, inflation.
All right.
I'm telling you, the sense of humor of the Wall Street Journal. Hold the inflation champagne. Prices reaccelerate.
Yeah.
Giving the Fed Reserve no cause to ease policy. And this is a great point. Wall Street and Washington are so eager to claim victory over inflation that even an acceleration in prices these days is deemed to be another step towards stable prices. Or so it seemed Thursday as Wall Street and various markets shrugged off news that the consumer price index for February rose at a faster pace for the second month in a row. The CPI for all prices rose 0.4% for the month, up from 0.3% in January after months of slower increases. This means the inflation pace for the last 3 months at an annual rate is faster than the last 12 months. The core inflation rate, which takes out food and energy, rose at 0.4% for the second month in a row, or 3.8% for the last 12 months. That's in the opposite direction of where the Federal Reserve wants prices to go as it attempts to return to its 2% annual inflation target. Investors shrugged off the report as if they continued to expect the Fed to cut interest rates as early as June. Oh, now it's June.
Oh, yeah, they kicked it back from March.
Yeah, it was March. It was March. June. Stock indexes rose, and former Boston Fed President Eric Rosengren reinforced the optimism that disinflation continues. Well, we hope he's right, but putting the champagne back on ice may be the wiser course. The price acceleration coincides with evidence that monetary conditions aren't as tight as Fed Chairman Jerome Powell has said. And they go, equities have been rising almost without a break since late October. Speculative bets like Bitcoin are back in vogue. Gold prices spiked until a recent correction, and junk bond spreads over treasuries are signaling that risk is back on, baby. Wow, they use a George Costanza. There's some evidence that the strong economic growth of 2023 has slowed, but there are yet no signs of a recession. As recently as last week, Mr. Powell made clear he expects to cut interest rates more than once in 2024. In this kind of market run in the 1990s, former Fed Chair Alan Greenspan counseled against irrational exuberance. There's no such caution at the central bank now, as the Fed is eager to declare that inflation victory is at hand. Well, you may want to wait until the prices aren't reaccelerating. Yeah. And if you look at it, it's the same problem that they have. The average consumer doesn't care about the minutia of inflation. You know, Karine Jean-Pierre, you can pick and choose and go, well, this is going down and this is going down and this is going down. But overall, what we see is, for example, the things that the must-haves.
Right.
Shelter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still amazed by my natural gas bills that I got this winter.
Mm.
Man, they really went up.
Yeah, right.
They really went up.
Yeah.
I'm guessing 30, 40% increase.
I didn't.
What I normally have.
I didn't notice, but it's one of the utilities that my wife handles. She didn't say anything to me, but she doesn't always. But I do know this: we also don't use a lot. We had a very mild winter to begin with, but we don't use a lot of heat. But we normally use natural gas for cooking, our water heater. I don't know if our usage jumped much in the winter, but the prices of everything, you mentioned it earlier, the consumer's already been through the February numbers. They paid for it. This report means nothing to them. Their report they see on a receipt every day.
Well, housing is up, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
Food, even if it's stabilizing a little bit, it's so far up over where it was before. So the things that you buy, we actually looked at the things that people actually buy, roughly from 2021 to now, 20 to 25%. You've had motor vehicle insurance just in the last year go up 20.6%.
Yep.
You have motor vehicle repair, now that people can't afford cars as much, up 8.5% year over year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is post, when you think of year over year, is really post the 9% inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still up 8.5%. And gas prices now going back up again, up 4.1% last month. And now we're getting to the blend season, which is where they put they blend it for different areas because of air pollution, which increases the cost of a gallon of gas. And then we're heading to the summer driving season.
Yeah.
So, that's a problem there. We've talked about homeowners insurance and how much has that gone up. Even if homeowners insurance for the average person, even if they go, well, it went down 1%, doesn't matter. It's gone up so much. That doesn't make a difference because you get assessed for that once a year. So you don't know what happened. If it went up 25% and then comes down 1% and your increase is 24%, you don't sit there and go, oh, it went down 1%.
Mm-hmm.
You just care about the overall hit that you're going to take, and that's the problem.
Non-prescription drugs, 9.3%.
Yep.
And you think about that. I was buying some OTC stuff at the store the other day, and allergy medication this time of year. And it was like, wow, when did that jump to that level? And I went back and compared it. I did have a receipt from I think it went back to 2018. Because there are online receipts from one of the retailers I buy from. And I went back and I was like, that comparison it's night and day. It went for this one over-the-counter allergy medication, and it's a store brand. It went from like $3 and something, under $3.50 to closer to $5. And I thought to myself, yeah, the care for the elderly in your home went up 9%. And these are things that, what are you going to do? Shelter, food. There's no option.
Well,
you can't.
Outpatient hospital services, which most people are most likely to do because of minor injuries, that's up roughly 8%.
Right.
Personal care products, 5.9%. Rent of primary residence, 5.8%. That keeps going up. Daycare and preschool, 5.5%. Checking accounts, 5%, and expect it to go up more.
Yep. Thanks to regulations. Yep. Thanks to Biden.
Laundry, dry cleaning services, 4.7%. And did you see admission to sporting events, 11%?
Wow.
That's because those greedy athletes need to make millions of dollars, right?
That's right. Also, sewing machines, fabric supplies also up 11%.
Yep.
Because you think about, okay, well, for a lot of families, it's not a hobby, right? You get your sewing machine out because you need to repair some clothes because you can't afford new clothes.
Baby food and formula, 8.8%.
Oh, man. And kids, the babies have to eat almost every day, I'm told.
Beef roast, 9.2%. Juices and drinks, 27.2%. Sugar, 6%. Tomatoes, 4.7%. Other fats and oils, 4.6%. Frozen and refrigerated bakery products, 3.8%. So it just, and remember, all these things are compounded.
Yep.
By the inflation you had previous to last year.
Right.
Which was really the big inflation.
Yeah. Right.
And so, yeah, you look at this and it's like all this optimism that we had. Remember, March, the first cut. Now it's June. I don't know.
No, I don't know that I don't have confidence of a rate cut this year now, but they might try something in the fall. I don't know what would have to happen. I mean, no, I know what would have to happen. I don't know how you would get there. Because this is what is happening with everyone in the supply chain. As we've talked about, inflation affects everybody, but it affects every step along the way. So it doesn't matter anything that you pay for is affected by inflation. And they're looking at now all the costs that are involved that are rising, including two, by the way, someone factored in yesterday. Well, you can't dismiss the higher cost of employees, especially in areas where they're raising minimum wage over and over again. It becomes very expensive. That's passed along to the consumer.
Wage inflation.
Yep.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
Check out all the latest in news, events, trucking information, and podcasts at Red Eye Radio's website at redeyeradioshow.com. That's redeyeradioshow.com.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know what I hate about legal speak? And you saw it yesterday during the Robert Hur hearings. And Robert Hur he was asked a question. He goes, well, that's inconsistent with our findings. And it wasn't until Matt Gaetz pegged him down and said, that means lying, right? And he goes, yeah.
Yeah.
He just went like, yeah. It's like, wow. Then say lying. Inconsistent with the findings. That means lying.
Yeah. Yeah, say it. We don't believe the subject was telling the truth. Yeah, it was a bad day for Biden and Biden's defenders. The Washington Post tried to put out this thing. It showed that it wasn't. It really the big deal about his cognitive state wasn't that big deal at all. Wasn't a big deal at all. Did you read the transcript?
Well, what they did was they saw Representative Jayapal saying,
"Yeah,
well, you exonerated him."
Yeah,
that word doesn't appear anywhere.
Right.
Well, you exonerated him. No, we didn't exonerate him. I'm speaking here.
Yeah, exactly.
But she asked the question. She asked the question. He kept going, "No, I didn't exonerate. This is my time."
Right.
It's like, oh, you weren't getting the answer that you wanted.
Exactly. No, that's exactly. They totally cherry picked it, and by cherry picking, I mean ignored it. But as the day played out, it just got worse and worse. It wasn't a good day for her. I really don't think that was a good.
I don't think it's ever a good day for her.
No, I don't mean Jayapal. I mean special prosecutor Hur. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. All right. See, I thought
H-U-R, not H-E-R.
I thought you were in pronoun mood.
Exactly.
Mode, not mood.
Right.
Mode. Okay.
I don't know what her pronouns are. I shouldn't assume anything.
Right. You should not.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.